to the show.
9 to noon.
Time for two more.
Big boy's back. Just listen.
I know, right?
That's old-fashioned ass kicking right here.
That's a fact.
Boom. 9 to noon is in the air. The goal today, unveiling roots to 1 in a row for KO, 5 in a row for Gorgo, and 3 in a row for DiVincenzo. And joining us now from sunny and warmer Orlando, Florida, is Chris Finch, headmaster of the Howl. He's the head coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Chris joins thanks to Second Harvest Heartland and toharvest.org and to Prize Picks. And Chris is with us now. Good morning, and let me guess, sunny and warm, and you and assistant coach Micah Nori are basking in the glow of sunshine next to a pool.
Well, sunny, yes. Warmer, yes, but it's 43 degrees down here, and it's a cold snap in the south, so... I wouldn't. It's not pool weather, that's for sure.
In the speaking of pools, in the sassy vein of say swimming in it, how about these Magic? Both Wagners are down, along with Banchero, and Suggs has missed 2 in a row. Can't, but with tonight, can't let the anonymity of it all throw off the players, right?
Absolutely. I mean, this team is, they've got some big wins without a lot of their key players. And the reason for that is they're a defensive-led team, and they're very, very physical. They're well-coached. People know their roles. Some of the guys that, now coming off the bench for them and playing lesser roles, a guy like Cole Anthony, had been a starter very early on in his career and can put the ball in the basket at a high level. And so it's when they go to their bench, or Jonathan Isaac, who was a starter well on his way to being a really, really highly impactful young player in this league before he was hijacked by multiple injuries. Like, these guys are now playing, a little bit deeper role on the bench, but still very, very capable when they're called upon to step up. But Jamal Mosley, the head coach here, has done an amazing job. He's built a great culture. They've kind of step-by-stepped it over the years, and you're seeing that now. And that's what happens when you can kind of, have some consistency through your roster, and you just, you got to build expectations from within.
How does Isaac play these days? And I'm glad you mentioned his name, because he was quite ballyhooed as a Seminole. Then he missed a couple of seasons with injury, and it just seems like it's all changed.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably one of the most impactful defensive players that we have in the league. He can guard on the perimeter. He's got great length. He's an incredible rim protector. He can execute all different pick and roll coverages. Really good timing as a shot blocker. I think that's where he really makes his name. But he's also got skill, offensive skill. He's a two-way player. And like I said, unfortunately, it's severe knee injuries early on, back-to-back seasons, I believe it was, or he came back just for a little bit and then got hurt again.
Right,
has derailed him. But he's, in a perfect role right now.
Coach, what were you doing in 1995 when Shaq and Orlando played Dream and Houston in the NBA Finals?
I believe I was watching OJ go down the highway like everybody else. I think was that the finals? No, maybe not that one, but I was actually living in Florida. I was home from Europe. I was still playing in Europe at that time. So I didn't go up to any of the games. I was living in Lakeland, Florida at the time. So.
Remember Nick Anderson? He was quality stock back in the day, wasn't he?
Oh, he was for sure. Missed those 2 free throws at the end of game 1 that would have won him game 1.
Right. Now Dante DiVincenzo. Dante quite possibly could be one of those guys who's best when he starts, right?
I mean, he's certainly a starter level player. And, I think sometimes guys like him, they need longer runs to be able to catch fire. He'll knock a few shots in a row. And if he's playing a lot of shorter stints, sometimes it's harder for him to get that groove. But we've tried to play him in long runs, but right now, he's a good fit in our new starting lineup for sure.
And I would imagine, Chris, all your years coaching basketball and being in the NBA, that there are some players who just are not at their best starting, right? Like Jordan Clarkson, Lou Williams, microwave Vinnie Johnson from the Pistons back in the day. They're just more comfortable in that 6th, 7th man role. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think that's a great point, PA. There's certainly starters. There's certainly starter level players. They have the talent to start. It's very much what does that starting unit need, and maybe their best attribute, and certainly the guys that you just mentioned, one of their best attributes was just come in and score. A lot of time the higher usage guys they leave the floor at that point in time, and they come in and get some instant offense off the bench. And guys that are kind of wired to score that way, it's comfortable for them. They don't have to really kind of accommodate much else that's going on out there.
And to that, in that vein, Chris, with current players, props to Norman Powell and Malik Monk, who they've overcome, if there is a stigma, they've overcome it and now are scoring starters, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's what does your team need, and what is it that these guys best provide? And I think with both those situations, those starting units definitely needed another scorer out there. In Sacramento's case, they're definitely a high octane offense. So the more scoring on the floor, the better for them. And with the Clippers, I would believe again that they need another guy who can pretty much get his own basket at times alongside Harden, who creates so much offense for everybody. But it's always good to have one more guy who can, be an on-demand scorer. And that's what a lot of these guys are. They're kind of offensive ecosystems unto themselves. They can get their own offenses, which is, a very valuable trait.
I was in attendance at Little Caesars before my favorite football team took that L on Sunday night. What did you say to them after that one? Yeah,
I said we got to find some urgency. I think just our energy was low in that game. We came out, they out physicaled us. We got behind. It was a funky game. Anthony had a big game for sure. He got at times he was the only one carrying us. It was the only consistent offense we could generate was through him. But I just didn't really like the urgency at which we played defense and we rebounded. And, unfortunately through a long season, you have some of these lulls, and we had one there. But that Detroit team, they're now up above 500.
Yep.
They're probably they are better than advertised. And, our guys, might not have had the the proper mindset going in there. I don't think they thought it was going to be easy.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure they thought it was going to be as a physical affair as it turned out to be.
Yeah, JB's doing a good job with that team. They
excellent job.
Yeah, they won another one after you guys, and they'll probably beat Golden State tonight. This is Chris Finch, head coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves, courtesy of Second Harvest Heartland, 2harvest.org, and Prize Picks, Wolves in Orlando this evening. So why do you think you guys can have a game like that one Saturday, yet play the champion Celtics tooth and nail every single time you see them?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think, as for the Celtics, well, first of all, we're still a very good team. We have inconsistencies, but we believe in our long-term talent and our long-term, we'll be there in the end. So working through those inconsistencies has been pretty much, our full-time job. And one night it's turnovers, one night it's shot making, one night we can't rebound. And it just seems to be different a little bit every night, So some of those issues are kind of omnipresent, but we might do them a little better at times. And when we do, it adds up to usually good results for us. As for the Celtics, of course, we feel like we match up pretty well against them. We have good length against their size. We have a pretty good feel for what they're trying to do. It's not necessarily a ball contained game. It's more of it is a one-on-one game, but they're trying to get up a million threes. So you got to really lock in and guard the 3-point line. That's something that we've traditionally been able to do well through a variety of means. And so I think that's what it's really come down to. What we haven't been able to do this season is close against them. They've been able to get us both times at the end of the game.
So there are just so many teams in the NBA like Boston that want to push the pace and shoot 53-pointers a game. And you mentioned Orlando, and defensively sound as the team is down. Certainly its best two players in Franz Wagner and Banchero. So like tonight. Tonight, whether Suggs plays or not, do they walk it up? Do they push the pace? Like what kind of game do they want to get you into tonight?
They want to get you in the mud is where they really want to get you. I mean, they're going to try to, slow you down physically. They're not a super fast team. They're a bottom 5 team in pace. But that doesn't make them a walk it up team. They are going to cash in on your turnovers. They're gonna opportunistically fast break you. They're gonna be smart with their offense. They're not gonna try to outscore you. They know that their best chance to win is using their second ranked defense and try to just kind of make it a fist fight. Which we've been pretty good in those games. We've been pretty good there because if we can take care of the ball and not turn it over, not feed an offense that needs to be fed like turnovers do, we'll be pretty good. Like we've just come to the realization that, we're in a lot of tight games and, we got to just try to be as good as possible in those clutch moments.
Well, there was a game against Orlando at Target Center within the last 3 years that actually was a fist fight. And when Mo Bamba ran off the bench, I was like, hide the women and children. Ain't nobody looking to mess with this man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I forgot all about that, but you're right.
I mean, you just see the look in a player's eyes sometimes, and you're like, nah, that's it. No, we ain't going to be messing around anytime soon. It's like when you guys had that unfortunate situation late a couple of seasons ago with Gobert and Slow-Mo, and as it started to stop. I mean, Torian Prince, he popped into that thing like, I'll take everybody here on if we don't stop this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. These are emotionally charged games, believe it or not.
Right. So for you guys after tonight, Memphis here Saturday, and at the Wizards Monday night. And looking at your guys' schedule at ESPN.com for the Washington game, it said tickets as low as $4. I'm like, that's crazy. I mean, any idea what's going on out there?
I mean, they're going through a rebuild. I mean, it's just plain and simple. They're going through an organized rebuild. At that point in time, they're trying to do two things, I would imagine. They're trying, they're veteran players. They're trying to keep them in the shop window up until the trade deadline here, see if they can spin them off for future assets or good young players that they can continue to try to build around. And then, of course, they're obviously focused on developing and playing their young players. Mm-hmm. And, it's very hard for young players to drive winning in the NBA. It's one of these facts. I mean, even the best top players, top 5 draft picks, they might play at an even or a +1 net rating when they're on the floor. Most of them play at like a replacement level player through their first year or so. So when you have a lot of young players, it just makes it tough to win, but it's good for their long-term development. It's the tricky part about these rosters and sometimes how they're constructed is that, it's very hard to kind of do both at the same time, which is, what we have other mechanisms to do for whether it be G League and player development program or, try to, kind of force feed or spoon feed minutes here. But when your margins for error are super tight, it's very difficult. It can become very difficult. And, but when you're worried mostly about development, you can really lean into it and, the results will be what they be.
All right, time for 2 more so you can get out to that 43-degree weather right next to the pool in Orlando, Florida. Rudy Gobert, what got into Rudy after the Pistons game? I mean, he's blocking every shot and grabbing like every rebound.
Yeah. Oh, that's what we need him to be. I mean, if we want to be the team that we know we can be, we have to have him playing that type of basketball every night at a super high level. So I think it's a recognition of how, some urgency, as we talked about, for him and everyone else to kind of up their activity level. And we got to go start seizing these games.
And lastly, let's close with Anthony Edwards, hitting 6 threes a game this month and at a 50% clip. But he's getting to the line more. Now, I know Little Caesars, he went there 14 times, so that's going to skew the number. But he's still getting there more, and I'd imagine that's super key to your long-term equation.
Yes, and his free throw rate had been down by nearly 50% through up until like the end of December. So we challenged him to get to the line more. Last year he was going 6 times a game up until the first of the year he was going 4 times a game. So and some of that was I was shooting more threes and those threes were going in at a good rate and shooting the ball so well. But we still felt that there were opportunities for him to get to the line more, get to the rim more, and he's done that. He's responded in that way. So he has the ability to score at all levels. But getting to the free throw line is still one of the most effective things that you can do because you can slow the game down. Efficiently, it's very high, and then you're putting fouls on the other team's best players, and because by nature usually guarded by their best guys. So
the best. Safe travels. We will chat next week. I appreciate the conversation, and it was very chill. And tear up those Magic tonight. All right.
All right. Thank you, PA.
Yep. See you, bud. Chris Finch, coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves, weekly on the 9 to Noon Show, courtesy of Prize Picks and Second Harvest Heartland at 2harvest.org. Today is a Thursday.
There we go, Paul!
Brilliant deduction, meaning tomorrow is a Friday.
There we go, Paul!
And if tomorrow's a Friday, that means the Friday football feast at Buffalo Wild Wings Savage. And Nordo, producer of 9 to Noon, if tomorrow is a Friday football feast and the National Football League playoffs are unveiled this weekend, it gives us an opportunity to just kind of start thinking about this right now. Like 9 to Noon. Have we told you lately how great we think Kenny Clark is? And, I mean, my man out of UCLA, I don't know if I saw many defensive tackles come into the National Football League draft. Yours truly, for what it's worth, coveted the way I coveted Kenny Clark. And then to watch his career, and then to see how they compliment him just masterfully.
Oh, it's beautiful.
With the beefeater, TJ Slaton. You know, there were those who mocked the new defensive coordinator, Jeff Hafley, for having Rashawn Gary, in essence, put his hand in the grass and play like a defensive end, and he was ineffective. Well, quite honestly, he wasn't ineffective. Hafley had it all figured out from jump.
Yeah.
He was setting everybody up for this time of the year, and it's just masterful.
It's been unbelievable, whether you look at what they did with a former fifth-rounder in Kingsley Enagbare, or you speak to Hafley in the way that in Swiss Army-like fashion,
Yes.
that Edgerrin Cooper has emerged in the midst of injuries to Quay Walker and others, and the mountain of burden on the shoulders of this rookie and how he has handled it with,
Amen.
in your words, aplomb.
Yeah.
He's been fantastic.
Yeah.
And I just think sometimes, taking time to acknowledge those things is really important.
And Edgerrin may be the steal of all steals ever to steal in a draft. Texas A&M go crazy with that kid. That's a very good point. And finally, seriously, good luck to the Eagles finding Jaden Reed. I mean, he's all over the place. So that, wow, that's going to be a good one this weekend. And hopefully you enjoy the goodness in the radio show today, because courtesy of TimberTech and TimberTech.com, what's on deck 9 to noon includes some football, of course, during the conversation, following Russo Radio, which is around the corner. We had 3 in a row, hopefully, for DiVincenzo. Monday night, 1 in a row for KO, and 5 in a row for Russo. That'd be terrific. Russo Radio is next. Michael Russo at Russo Hockey via Twitter. And he joins us now with the Minnesota Wild taking on the Colorado Avalanche this evening. Good morning, Michael.
Hey, how you doing?
All right, bud. If the Minnesota Vikings happen to end up in, say, Arizona, Vegas would be a long shot, but Arizona, I think the game's going to be in Los Angeles, but we should know more within the next 48 hours. But if it ends up in Arizona, maybe you come to the game and act as young Alex sidebar guy for this playoff game. You're going to be in Vegas the night before, and good morning.
Yeah, and a couple days after, because I'm actually sitting down with Jack Eichel Monday, which is why, I was hoping if they moved the game, it would be to Vegas, and then I could be Alex Apprentice and help him out. As you know, though, more than anybody, PA, it's usually not good when I'm writing sidebars from Vikings games. I've done it twice in Arizona, and both times, as you know, it didn't go well.
Yeah. 09.
Yeah,
a linebacker broke a femur. What's the other one?
There was another game as well, and they lost that one too. Was it the femur game? Was that EJ?
Yeah, that was EJ Henderson.
And wasn't that the game that? Weren't they undefeated going into it, or they were 9-1 or something?
Yeah, no? They might only have had one loss. They went 6-0 with Favre. Then they lost at Pittsburgh, and then things went a little pear-shaped when you went to the game.
Yeah, and then if you remember, there was that Washington preseason game at US Bank that they were down like 30-0 at halftime, and I decided to leave, and then they came back when I left. And then there was the game against Aaron Rodgers at TCF, where I did again sit at the right hand of PA, and you lost, and you basically told me I wasn't allowed back. So
yeah, you might need to stay away. But it's always great to see you.
Yeah. Do you really think it's going to stay in LA? Like, I just think even just the from they can't close that roof, right?
Right. I don't have any team intel. I was texting with somebody in Southern California who works in the newspaper business this morning, mostly about the fires. But then I was like, sporting events, can galvanize communities.
Yeah, no doubt.
In super tough times. But I'm not sure that this would be the case there because not many people there care about the LA Rams. And secondly, it's not like a community. It's just a massive SoCal region. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The only issue, like I'm thinking, is that from one, it's so close to the fires that still aren't contained. Obviously, hopefully by Monday. But you just wonder if from a air quality standpoint that you want guys breathing that stuff in. So it just feels like it's going to be moved, but that's just
no doubt. And the person with whom I was texting, basically laid it out like, I can't see them moving the game. Now the winds have dissipated a bit, but pockets are popping up all over the place. So I don't know. I'm gonna be out at the Vikings facility today, and I'll see if I can get a lean. Now speaking of getting a lean, and I forgot to look this up at Russo Hockey via Twitter. So maybe there's an answer, maybe there's not. Brock Faber, what's happening with him?
I don't know yet. We're going to find out at the morning skate in about an hour if he's on the ice. If the injury is what we think we found rewatching the game yesterday, it looks like he might have suffered some sort of head injury. On the first shift of the game, 37 seconds in, he caught an elbow from Jake Neighbors. He played 3 or 4 more shifts, but because his last couple of shifts, it was very innocuous, like nothing obvious happened. And the way he sort of skated gingerly to the bench, it made you think that he had a lower body injury. But when they called it an upper body injury, then you start thinking concussion or oblique or something like that. But if it's that elbow he caught, then obviously I would think that they'd need to keep him out. But Brock Faber has, surprised us in the past. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, he took a puck to the neck and everybody thought he sustained a major injury and he was, taken to the hospital. Turned out that it was just for precautionary reasons that he went to the hospital and he was fine. So we'll see today. But looking at the Wild's roster right now, it looks to me like that David Juracek is now on a regular recall and not an emergency recall, which would make me think that Brock's out tonight. Right. The other thing that they did yesterday and this is the first time really since they sent Jesper Wallstedt to the minors before the St. Louis game 4 of the season. They're now having to manipulate their roster and basically, arguably play lineups that they don't want to play because of the injury situation. So what I mean by that is that the only way to get a defenseman onto the roster yesterday, David Juracek, was to place somebody on LTIR. They just could not afford a recall. So what they did is they took Jacob Lauko, who we're told is ready to come back. They put him on LTIR. They brought Juracek up, but you can't have Lauko and Juracek, at least the way I do the math, really on the same lineup because they'd be over the cap unless you put somebody on LTIR, which was Lauko. And now that they could go over the cap, if you're following me, they've recalled Devin Shore again, who was sent down yesterday in just a paper move. So essentially yesterday they pulled off, they had to do a bunch of roster manipulation to get a defenseman here. And so again, what they did is they put Lauko on LTIR, they sent down Devin Shore, they recalled David Juracek. Now suddenly Devin Shore is on their roster this morning, which makes me think that they only put Lauko on LTIR to be able to afford a full lineup. And that's tough because if Lauko didn't suffer a setback, they're going to really have to, get with him and explain why this happened, today and why he's not playing.
Oh, geez.
Can you repeat the part of this stuff where you said all about the things?
So just overall with the 4 consecutive they've won, what you have a trained eye. What do you like about the way they have been playing?
Well, I mean, first of all, the 2 games in Washington and Raleigh is as impressed as I've been with them all year long. You go on that road trip, they don't have Kaprizov, they don't have Middleton, and then they lose Spurgeon the night before they go to Washington. And you're just thinking, how are they even going to get one win against these 2 Eastern Conference heavyweights? And they instead get both. They played to me, the drop of the puck in Washington to the end of the game in Raleigh, 60 of their most consistent minutes of the season. They just were, they had the puck all night long. There was never really sustained pressure, against them in any of the 2 games. And I just thought they played fabulously. Then they come home and last game was just from an entertainment standpoint, terrific. Lots of emotions in that game. Obviously, you go up 2-0, then you give up 4, and then you score 4 unanswered to rally back. I definitely think that the Faber injury sort of rallied them together. You're playing 5 defensemen for 50 minutes. Clearly, the way they were going after Jake Neighbors the rest of the game, I think that the Wild felt that Neighbors did something dirty to Faber, whether it was an accident or not. That kid plays hard. He's a really good player. And I think it rallied them together. It was just very, very impressive the way they took advantage of a goalie that I don't think Binnington was on his game that night. And, Middleton added a lot of energy. They had 4 left shot Ds playing right shot throughout the game, which is why I think Juracek has to be in the lineup tonight if Faber isn't. You just can't do that, again, and have these guys just, playing with everybody.
Now, whether it's the battling of attrition and fighting through it and winning games and having 56 points into tonight's game, which is fantastic, do you believe this success can sustain? I mean, top 3 in the league in points?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're 41 games into the season, and for a team that's been just inundated with injuries, they really haven't had a full lineup since game 2 of the season. If you remember, that's the game that they lost Eriksson Ek to the elbow to the face that broke his nose from Adam Larson, and then Spurgeon woke up not feeling well. His back issues again, or a hip in Winnipeg, and had to come home and miss much of the road trip until he returned. I believe it was in Pittsburgh. So they've just continued to play well when we just haven't. You're just always expecting the shoe to drop when you have this many injuries. Well, here they are at the exact halfway point. And they have the 4th most points in the NHL, and they're second in the division. And I don't think that any of us, hand on the Bible, could say that we would have expected that at the start of the year, especially when we saw the gauntlet of a schedule that they had to start the year with the 7-game road trip. So I really do believe it's sustainable. I still think that they've got to get some things fixed in their game. There's penalty kill. It's just amazing that it hasn't killed them yet. The reason why it hasn't killed them yet is they've been one of the most disciplined teams in the league. They've only been shorthanded 99 times, which is 5th fewest. And yet they're, 29th, 30th in the penalty kill. If they were, as undisciplined as they were in the Dean Evison years, this team would not be where they are in the standings because their penalty kill is that lousy. So
right. I
still think that that's not sustainable in the playoffs. You can't, and we saw it against Dallas. They gave up 9 shorthanded goals, but 5-on-5, they were on par, if not better, than Dallas in that entire playoff series. But their penalty kill just killed them, and their power play wasn't very good. So I do. I mean, when you're 41 games into the season playing this well,
yep.
And you're doing this, you're winning games constantly without guys like Kaprizov or Spurgeon or Brodin or Middleton or, at the times without Gustafsson early last month. I mean, you do have to give this team just a boatload of credit right now.
Michael Russo, The Athletic, theathletic.com, at Russo Hockey. Nice enough to join 9 to noon. Wild and Avs this evening at the X. What in the most recent game, St. Louis, what'd you think of Brodin's 33 minutes against the Blues? Holy cow.
I was thinking leaving that game, like, it's just what a success story. I mean, this guy was drafted in 2011, and he's a gamer every single night. He's probably the one. I was glad Joe Smith went to his hometown last year and did when we were in Sweden for the Global Series, and did a big thing where, he went to his house. All of a sudden his mom's there, and we got a real good inside look of who Brodin was growing up. Because one of my biggest disappointments that I've been, covering this team for the last 14 years is I don't feel like I have written a really good profile on who this consistent player is on a nightly basis. He skates like nobody else. As other coaches say, the guy can skate backwards faster than most guys could skate forward. He gets himself out of a dime. You wish he didn't take so many hits, because I think he'd be healthier. But because the reason why he takes so much hits is that he's so gutsy for a guy that's not huge. I mean, he's tall, but if you see him in the locker room, he's not a big giant man. And yet he just puts himself in harm's way all the time. And that shift the other night was absolutely incredible. The Wild, sometimes you just wish in those situations, especially in a 1-goal lead, they don't go for the empty net. They just chip it out and allow line changes because, could you imagine if Johansson iced it a 4th time and missed that empty net, like what would have happened those last 40 seconds. But the way that he slumped into that bench was just, it pretty much epitomized the entire game. And again, my colleague Joe Smith did a great gamer, and where he really dissected that entire shift. I was sitting next to him in the press box as I was working on something else, and he was watching video of that entire 3-minute shift and just going through everything that happened so he could really document and write a really quality gamer, and I loved it.
If you were to eliminate Kaprizov from the equation, Mike, who's the Wild's MVP and why?
Definitely Philip Gustafson. I mean, 18, 6, and 3 at 231 goals against. His save percentage is 922. He'd be probably the front runner for the Vezina if Connor Hellebuck didn't exist, as we wrote in our midseason report today. And so I just have been shocked by the way that he's come back. I expected him to be better this year, especially knowing the pressure of Jesper Wallstedt potentially on the roster and pushing him. But the way that he went to the World Championship after a really tough year, had an incredible World Championship, and then really took it to heart this past summer that he needed to come back in much better shape. And when you're in much better shape, things just become second nature to you. He also listened to Freddie Shabbat. If you watch him this year, he's a lot deeper and more patient, and he's a lot deeper in his crease and much more patient, not challenging guys as much, has been quieter in net, and he's really been their backbone.
Hines really is high on John Merrill right now, and understandably so. But from your standpoint, what's he doing so well?
Well, I mean, first of all, he's a -3, and obviously, on a team that has a lot of pluses, I think sometimes people look at that and think that he's not playing well. But if you think of the consistent minutes that he's given for most of the season, other than the penalty kill at 5-on-5, he's been quality, and he's been put into positions like the other night where he's playing right side, left side, and and just playing much better. Now, the one thing, he gets a lot of hate online from Wild fans for myriad reasons, but I think the one thing that we all need to always realize is there's a reason why he's a third pair defenseman. Third pair defensemen they're not gonna look the prettiest at times. Just saying that, I think of that great Nate Prosser line from his dad, from one of my favorite features I've ever written, where I'm sitting with Chris Prosser, his dad, and he goes, number 39, and he takes a swig of his cigar, and he goes, he's not pretty, But you look at Nate Prosser, and he gave you steady minutes all the time. I'm not saying John Merrill's that, but that's what a third pair defenseman is. You can't expect, Zach Bogosian and John Merrill and Travis Dermott to look like, Jake Middleton and Jarrett Spurgeon and Jonas Berdine and Brock Faber. That they're in that position because they're not top 4 defensemen. But for the most part this season, especially considering what we saw last year, he's given them quality minutes. I still think this is his last year with the Wild, which, half the fan base and more will probably be happy about. But for the most part, considering how banged up this roster has been, John Merrill and Zach Bogosian have given them incredible minutes. And, I wouldn't say incredible, really solid minutes. Like, I loved Zach Bogosian's game the other day. These guys aren't going to be perfect. But the other night, how many years have we been asking Wild defensemen to just bury guys in front of the net, bury guys in the corner, play a hard physical game? And Bogosian played angry the other night, and I just thought he was beyond entertaining to watch, especially in the third period.
All right, lastly,
Russo Radio.
Colorado tonight, quite hot these days. The Avs beat Winnipeg. What? Not last night, but recently. What's tricky about tonight for the home team?
Well, as usual, as all Wild fans know, it's their top 3, right? I mean, it's Rantanen, it's McKinnon, and it's Makar. I think Nichushkin, I believe, is still hurt. But Blackwood's been really, really good since he got there from San Jose. Rantanen, so they lost last night in Chicago, which was shocking, which actually scares you coming into tonight. Rantanen lost his 14-game point streak yesterday. McKinnon lost his 7 or 8-game point streak yesterday. But these guys have beaten the Wild for fun the last couple years. They're 14-4-2 in their last 20 against the Wild. They've won 4 in a row in St. Paul, 6 of the last 7 in Denver, and the Wild play there next week. McKinnon had 10 points against the Wild in a season sweep last year. They've been on fire lately, other than last night. They're 11-3-1 in the last 15. They're 7-1-1 in their last 10.
Right.
6-2 in their last 8 on the road. I mean, these guys, Makar's on pace for almost 100 points. These guys can light you up, but if you shut those guys down, you have a real good chance to beat them. And I do think the Wild are playing well tonight. I like the fact that it looks like we're going to see David Juracek's debut. which I'm excited about because, you hear so much about, negativity online from Columbus Blue Jackets fans. I want to see this guy with my own two eyes. So this is going to be a tough game for the Wild tonight. But, as we've said all along, they beat the East for fun. They have the best record of any Western Conference team against the Eastern Conference. They beat Dallas in their last meeting. But for this team to be team that a lot of people actually believe are real contenders, they've got to beat Dallas, Winnipeg, Colorado, LA, Vegas on a consistent basis, and they haven't done that the last couple of years. So this is our first meeting against Colorado. We'll see how it goes.
My man, enjoy the game tonight. Safe travels to the 702, and we'll call you next week.
Yep, see you, bud.
That is Michael
Russo Radio,
courtesy of The Athletic and theathletic.com. All right, now to the football portion of the equation. Next segment involves the NFL. It's called Buy and Sell. That's followed by Ben Lieber, beloved Nacho, at 10 o'clock. Rams play-by-play voice J.B. Long at 11:03. Don't leave, 9 to noon.
Football feast.
The 2024 National Football League season has come and gone, and there are myriad head coaching job openings. The Tennessee Titans have the first pick in the National Football League draft, and the playoffs commence on Saturday. So, off the conclusion of the season, let's play an off-the-cuff, out-of-nowhere game called Buy or Sell and Why. And let's begin here. I'll fire the questions, the buy or sell, and the why, provided by Mad Producer. And here they are. The Buffalo Bills are as good as they ever have been because Stephon Diggs no longer is on the team. Are you buying or selling that? The con.
Oh, are you kidding me? I'm absolutely buying that. I might buy two just to have an extra one around in case I lose the other one. I think there is absolutely a cultural dynamic shift post Stephon Diggs and the look at me moments of him standing there a couple of postseasons ago outside of the locker room. I believe it was the Chiefs who were celebrating. And then we hear about certain disconnects and all the negativity that exists on the sidelines. It can be as subtle as a look. It can be more overt in the regard of short answers during press conferences, the cryptic tweets. We dealt with it. I loved Stephon Diggs when he was here, but then when it went south in a hurry, and suddenly he was gone. It was awesome in Buffalo. Then things got weird. It went south in a hurry, and then he went south, as in being traded to the Houston Texans. I think the Bills are better for it and the best that they have been in Josh Allen's tenure.
Number 2, Bryce Young has become better than C.J. Stroud.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, I might just be window shopping on this. This one's difficult.
Yeah, see, those at the buy and sell stock market, they rolled in there, they heard the bell, and they're like, what? These commodities are up there? This is a stone cold cinch.
Yeah, see,
well, then they got into the recency and the equitable wherewithal of the two individuals, and they see one stock soaring and the other stock descending.
Well, like if I'm buying crypto, I'm buying the dip. And so I would buy the dip on C.J. Stroud. And I would hope that dip brings me some profits down the road into year 3.
I like that because C.J. might have been a $75 stock last year. You can get him for $22 right now.
Yeah, let's get value on this thing. I will say this, though. If it was just simply if I'm buying or selling on the 2024, I got to buy Bryce Young. I got to buy Bryce Young on a worse team. I got to buy Bryce Young in a destitute situation.
Yeah.
And C.J. Stroud, the combination of injuries, the combination of living up to some expectations that were built from an awesome debut campaign into a sophomore slump. If it's 2024, I'm buying Bryce Young, but I might want to buy the dip on the backside, maybe try to double up my profits with C.J. bouncing back in 2025.
Number 3. Cleveland will not select a quarterback with the second overall pick.
I am I'm selling that.
You're selling that hard?
I'm selling that.
Okay.
You know what? It's
You're going to sell short.
Well, here's the thing, and I don't know how Haslam works. I love their head coach. We know that, and they got some issues to figure out. The defense, when healthy, is championship ready, and they've struggled with the injuries to Nick Chubb the last couple of years, devastating knee injury, and all of that. This quarterback situation's a disaster. Can Jimmy Haslam, as he already signed off on the idea, and he got hurt along the way, of course. Can he sign off on just eating that cash and moving on? I don't know if he can. At this particular moment, I'm selling that. They will select a QB in 2025. They will actually make a smart decision and officially move on and just carry the debt of that Deshaun Watson L and the problem they put themselves in.
And the quarterback they select quite possibly could be from Boulder, Colorado.
Ooh, Shedeur.
For the Colorado Buffalo.
I think Kevin Stefanski with the run game. Shedeur.
Well, that's not a buy or sell. Here it is.
Okay.
Number 4. The team that drafts Shedeur Sanders will have Deion-related distractions every step of the way. Buying or selling that?
I am buying a bit of that. I am buying that because Dad's busy. But Dad's busy. Dad has figured out how to live in the now, live in social media, live in front of microphones and televisions, and balance running the Colorado program. I think Deion is absolutely, whether he's his agent, he's his hype man, he's his HOF dad. I think Deion's a big part of the early stages of Shedeur's career. And I think in some ways, this is a bad example because I have infinitely more respect for Deion overall as a cachet and a player. Remember LeVar Ball?
Oh, yeah.
Remember that situation where, as an outsider, it became a problem. And it became, again, hype man, merch man, and a big baller. Was it Big Baller Brand or something like that? He was at every game. He was in front of every microphone. I think in some ways his children had to live in that shadow. I kind of felt bad for him. Now, Lonzo has been an injury problem is most of his career. Sad for him. LaMelo, when he's healthy,
he's hurt every day,
but he's a stud in Charlotte. That
right.
So I think he's risen beyond Dad.
Not quite possibly.
I think Deion in some ways is just a more credible LeVar Ball, and I think it's going to be obnoxious not only for the fan base but for the front office of whoever drafts Shedeur.
Number 5, buy or sell and why? Philadelphia will beat Green Bay by 2 scores or more.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all in on Edgerrin Cooper and
okay, bit aside.
Yes.
Preference for
I'm buying it.
Go Pack Go.
Yeah.
And hail to the Red, hail to WF, hail to the Commanders, hail victory. That to the side.
Yes.
Be an elite football mind. Buy or sell. Philadelphia will beat Green Bay by 2 scores or more.
Josh Jacobs is the machine that runs the entire Packers offense. I think Jordan Love, you can look at statistics and you can say, well, for the most part, he's been pretty damn good. He's not turning the ball over. He's going to throw at least 2 picks this weekend against the Eagles. I believe that whatever the concussion related, they're hanging that out there. He's still in concussion protocol. Jalen Hurts is postseason trained. Sirianni, at least for a week, can keep from just being a jackass. A.J. Brown, that connection's going to be pure. They won't be able to stop Saquon. I think that this is actually will be one of the least entertaining games of the weekend because the Eagles will indeed dominate the pack.
And the silence you hear is Lambeau Field.
All right, now, I was going to save this for Birchie tomorrow, but then I realized he can only name a handful of defensive players in the NFL, so I'll unfurl it with you.
Yeah.
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 6. Cincinnati's Trey Hendrickson led the NFL with 17.5 sacks and absolutely is the best pass rusher in the NFL.
I'm buying or selling that?
Yeah. You're buying or selling that take?
I'm selling that he's absolutely the best pass rusher in the NFL.
What do you mean he has 17.5 sacks, like 2 clear from everybody else?
Yeah, and T.J. Watt in Pittsburgh, I think, missed some time. He's perpetually injured and still the elite of the elite. He's going to get more double teams and chips than Trey Hendrickson could ever dream of. And you have, of course, we just talked about Cleveland. Myles Garrett is an absolute stone-cold killer. There's got to be at least 3 to 4 and maybe 5 that you're going to jump in front of him as an absolute pure pass rusher. The only thing that I will say as an aside, because I'm selling that. He ain't the best pass rusher in the NFL.
Thank you.
How good was he out of a presumed one-hit wonder with the Saints? He gets that cash with Cincy. He has been really productive for the Bengals. So Trey Hendrickson, pretty damn good player. I'd take him on my team, but I wouldn't substitute my guys for him. He is not the best pass rusher in the NFL.
Why don't you put your pants back on, Slappy?
Myles Garrett, I believe, is the only player in the history of the NFL to have at least 14 sacks 4 consecutive seasons.
Yeah, he might be actually just be the best pass rusher, T.J. Watt included.
Well, there's one out of sight, out of mind.
Oh, well, Daniil?
Oh, Aiden Hutchinson.
Oh, Aiden.
He's out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, well, he's out of sight.
How quickly they'd forget.
He's out of sight, but not out of mind, as he still leads the Lions, I believe, with 7.5 sacks.
Yeah, well, it sure mattered Sunday night.
Hasn't played mid-season, but yeah, it did not matter Sunday night. Aiden Hutchinson, a stud. I actually would not, at this stage, still would not put him, though, in the category of a Myles Garrett or T.J. Watt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Buffalo Wild Wings Savage tomorrow for the feast, and maybe some more buy or sell for the Charchy. But into the second hour of today's presentation is 10 o'clock. Good morning. Ben Lieber at Nacho Lieber, our beloved Nachito, joins 9 to noon at KFAN around the corner. Don't leave.